Welcome to the Law School Insider, where we have conversations with students, lawyers, and employers.
Succeeding in law school is something that you must prepare for, not only before you begin, but throughout your law school journey, and that's what this podcast is all about. I am your host, Dr. Christopher Lewis, and I will draw from my over 20 years of experience in the college admission field, as well as bring forth the experiences of others as we delve deeper into the issues. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Law School Insider. I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Lewis, and I'm so excited to have you back again this week. This week, I am excited to be able to bring you Bill Fleener, who is a clinical coordinator for Western Michigan University, Cooley Law School. And in his role, he works with all kinds of students who are working on trying to get experiences that will help them to better understand the law and place them into internships, externships, and other opportunities that they want to have to be able to gain skills and gain experiences that will help them in the job market, but also in better understanding the law that they've been learning over the years that they've been in law school. So, Bill, thanks so much for being on the show this week.
Thank you for having me.
You know, Bill, I'm very excited to be able to have you on the show because I know in all of my different experiences and opportunities of working with students that the internship, or sometimes called an externship, is an experience that is so important for students to have. It is important for them to be able to really codify the knowledge that they've been learning in the classes. And so I wanted to be able to have you on to talk about this because I know that sometimes people don't understand how this all works and how it plays into the learning that they need to be having. So to start off today, let's talk a little bit about the internship itself. Why is an internship so important for students to have while they're going through law school?
So an internship or externship, those terms tend to get used fairly interchangeable depending on whether you're talking from the employee side or the school side. And clinics, any live client representation, is an opportunity to apply the things you've learned in law school in practice. It's different than learning the black letter law that you learn in a classroom, and it's an opportunity to work in either a clinic or an externship, work with a licensed attorney as you begin to learn to apply the things you've learned to specific client situations.
You know, that is really important because I know that, like I said earlier, you know, you go through all of these different types of experiences in law school. You're learning all that black letter law that you were mentioning, but then you don't always know how to use it. So being able to have experiences like this are so important in that regard. So as students are starting to figure out for themselves or figure out that they want to do this type of experience, what are some of the things that you say to them to help them to try to frame the type of experience that they should be getting or having as they are going into this externship or internship process?
So there are two types of internships. There tends to be internships or some law schools that you would do as a summer associate position. There are internships that students do or externships that students do earlier in their law school career. And then there are a classic externship where you would do kind of as a capstone of your law school career. And there are different things that become important in each of those situations. But the two primary things of importance for me are, one, subject matter, and two, location, particularly for capstone externships. Knowing where you are likely to practice law and pursuing an externship in that area not only exposes you to the black letter law, as we've been saying, of the local jurisdiction, but it provides opportunity for networking in the practice area, in the geographic area where you plan to live. And then practice area becomes important either because you're firming up skills in an area you want to go into, or as an opportunity for sampling of sorts. So if you think you might be interested in bankruptcy law, spend 4 months in an externship in a bankruptcy firm. And at the end of that point, you'll have a very clear idea whether that's something you're going to enjoy practicing long-term or whether that's something that you'd rather not practice long-term and you can move on to something else.
Great points. Now, when someone is in their internship or externship, have you found that there are any types of pitfalls that sometimes students fall into, whether it be pitfalls prior to going into the internship or externship, or pitfalls when they're going through that process that they could mitigate, or if they do something prior to, that they could not have that happen to them?
So I think, like most things, I think communication is the key, both in originally starting and on an ongoing basis. Making it clear what the expectations are for the student and for the attorney in the site. What will be accomplished? What will the student be required to do? Some students think they're going to be able to do great legal work, and the attorney in the setting is really looking for somebody to answer the phones and file documents and things like that. And students are dissatisfied with that, where some communications up front would make a world of difference. In the externship, the biggest pitfall we get is people not being clear about assignments and not communicating as assignments going on. And we hear all the time of students who are given an assignment, because they're nervous or because they're new, they don't ask enough questions to be clear what's being asked, and they go off and work for several days sometimes and come back and it's not close to what the attorney was expecting. Or they struggle and struggle and struggle, and there are easy ways for the attorney they're working for to help them along. So I think the biggest thing is communicating, opening up lines of communications between the attorney in the setting and the student to make sure that everybody's on the same page, make sure that if the student's struggling, they ask. There are often fairly easy answers, but the attorney sometimes will say, go see if you can figure this out. And if you can't at a reasonable amount of time, they're willing to help you. And then next time they won't have to do that. So I think that's the biggest thing is not being intimidated. Ask questions, even questions that seem fairly obvious. Sometimes the students don't know. I have a sign on my door that says, when in doubt, ask questions, and when not in doubt, ask questions. And I think that's really the key.
Asking questions is definitely important, not only in this process, but throughout your entire law school experience. I know that you have interacted with a lot of students in the experiences that you've had, and you've probably seen some amazing things that people have been able to have opportunities in doing. And are there any examples of some great experiences that people did have? And what were some of the takeaways that they had from those experiences that you could share?
So we recently had here a Cooley student who ended up doing an externship in D.C. in an administrative agency. And because he had a military background, he also had a security clearance. And he very quickly was involved in meetings well beyond what anybody would think a law student would be able to be a part of. He was involved in some amazing things. The department he was working in was in charge of drug interdiction from overseas, and he was involved in all parts of the investigation and some of the prosecution. And he just had an amazing time being almost immediately taken into the full depths of that work. We have other students. I had a student who did an externship at the U.S. Humane Society. She cares deeply about animals and their welfare, and spent time doing an amazing array of tasks, including testifying in state legislatures about bills that were being proposed to protect farm animals and livestock and things like that. So it really unlimited potential in an internship or an externship. A lot of it depends on you, on your showing your abilities and skills and them trusting you. And a lot of it depends on the site. And you can learn a lot about this stuff before you go and see what opportunities there are likely to be as you're there.
Great points. Now, if there are people that now are saying to themselves, I think in law school I want to do this, or I want to work for this person, what are some of the steps that they should be doing to start to foster those relationships or start to develop those potential pathways toward a potential internship or externship in the future?
So this is one of the places where there's some divergence among law schools. Many law schools allow externship for credit placements at a variety of work settings, including for-profit law firms. but many do not. So you would have to find out from your law school. For instance, Cooley does. Cooley allows students to extern for credit in a firm that's a for-profit firm. The rest of the schools in Michigan do not allow that. So you'd have to have your relationship take a different form, a more classic internship, either for pay or for a volunteer internship. But I think the key is networking, is if you have your sights set on a particular field of law and a group of practitioners in that area, or a particular practitioner because you know he or she is excellent in that area, the process is getting to know them and getting to have the opportunity to show them that you could provide some additional benefit to the work they're doing. Now, externships, as a rule, are educational. People who are supervising externs should expect that that's going to take a significant amount of time, but it's a chance to mentor. A lot of practitioners really enjoy that process, the mentoring process, and get something out of that process. So I think there are ways to sell that idea on practitioners, even if it's not something they've done or are in the habit of doing.
Well, that's really important because I think that being able to network and being able to create those pathways early on and maintaining those pathways is important as well, because we've talked about that on the show in the past, is that networking is critical throughout your entire time. And this is even just a part of that you have to be able to network to be able to build those opportunities. Now, if you don't have a network going in, that's okay too, because many law schools do have the ability to be able to connect you with places. And I know that even here at Western Michigan University Cooley Law School, there are opportunities for things like that. Are there not, Bill?
Yeah, we have our law school, and most law schools do have a database of externship, past externship placements. Ours, because of the experience with doing that basically since its beginning, we have about 3,000 externship sites all over the world. So chances are we have one in your neighborhood. But we also have a vast alumni network, and all schools also have that, which allows you to make contact with people who from your law school in your local area. And you have to dig a little harder to find out what their practice areas are and whether that's something you're interested in. But, making an initial contact is how networks begin. That may or may not be your intended or your desired placement, but you can ask them who they know and who they might think might be interested in the type of experience you're trying to obtain. And that's how it works. You start with one person and get introduced to another and another, and pretty soon you have a network. So there are established sites, and then there's the ability through contact or through your own hustle to set up new sites.
Well, Bill, I truly appreciate you sharing all of this information today. Are there any other final suggestions or resources or things to think about that people should be thinking about today when it comes to this process or finding an internship or being successful in an internship for themselves in law school?
I think the biggest thing is to, like most things in law school and in life, is to start planning early. If it's weeks or days from the beginning of the term and you need to do an externship, your ability and your options, your ability to select things that you like will be extremely limited. But if you start 6 months, 8 months, a year ahead of time, really exploring where and what subject matter you want your externship in, there are a lot more options, and you'll have the ability to choose among those the one that's the best fit for you. And don't be afraid to push. There are externship sites, and I'm sure law school students talk to each other. There are externship sites that are less work, that the time is easier. And I think I would discourage you to do that, because this is an opportunity. You're paying for credits in a paid for-credit externship. You're paying for credits. You should expect to learn as much as you can. And so I would push yourself. Find an area of the law that stretches you, a skill or ability that you don't have that can add to your skill set to prospective employers, either at the externship, potentially at the end, or to prospective employers in other firms who then will be looking at you when you finish your externship.
I just want to echo what you just said there, because I think that it is so important to be able to find an externship that is going to challenge you and that is going to push you. Yeah, I've heard some people say that you should be finding your dream job in your externship, or be looking for your dream job. And while you may not find that specifically, but it is an opportunity for you to delve deeper into a specific area of law, and to be able to find out if that area of law is truly what you want to do, or if it's not, and that's okay as well. So this has been enlightening, Bill. I truly appreciate you sharing all of this today, and we'll have to have you back again soon.
My pleasure. I enjoyed it, and I'd be happy to come back.
Well, that was another great guest this week on the Law School Insider. If you have an interest in being a guest on the show, drop me an email at lawschoolinsider@cooley.edu. And thank you all for listening today, and remember, you have the ability and right to take control of your law school success. I hope you'll continue listening, creating a plan for success that will prepare you to achieve the dreams that you have set for yourself. Talk to you next time. Thanks for listening. You're on your way to being a Law School Insider. Please subscribe to stay connected and come back again next time as we speak to more students, lawyers, and employers.